Ever notice how buying property abroad feels like stepping into a maze without a map? You start the same way most Canadians do, scrolling through listing online, watching video, messaging agents, reading forums where everyone seems confident and nobody agrees. And somehow, instead of clarity, you end up more confused than when you started. One person tell you one area is the best option, another swears a completely different market is the real opportunity. The numbers don't line up. The legal explanation contradict each other, and no one seems to explain what this actually looks like for a Canadian trying to do this from home. Maybe you've tried to research it yourself. You spent hours comparing projects. You've talked to someone who bought once and now gives advice. You've downloaded brochures from developer you can't verify. You've sat through webinars and felt more like a sales pitches than education. And here's what most people don't realize. The reason you can't move forward isn't because you haven't done enough research. It's because the information itself is fragmented. That's what I call the cross-border maze. You're trying to make a major financial decision using pieces that don't connect. Pricing from one source, legal explanation from another, rental assumption from a third, developer credibility from a fourth. None of it forms a complete picture you can actually trust. And when your brain can't see the full picture, it does the smartest thing it can. It hesitates. Not because you don't want to invest, not because opportunity don't exist, but because making a decision without clarity feels reckless. And here's the part most people miss. The confusion isn't accidental. Some agent focus only on closing. Some content creator promotes whatever is trending. Some developer highlights visual without explaining the legal structure. And very few people are looking at this through a Canadian lens. So what happens? You stall. You keep researching. You keep watching. You keep telling yourself you'll figure it out later. And while you're stuck in the cross-border maze, you continue to spend hours researching with no clear direction, second-guess every project you look at, feel unsure about developer and contracts, worry about making the wrong move, watch others move forward while you stay on the sidelines. Not because you lack interest, but because you lack a single trusted framework. And that's the part that changed everything. But here's what changed everything. Here's the truth most people don't talk about. Here's the truth nobody really talks about. The reason buying property abroad feels risky isn't because it actually is. It's because most people are trying to figure it out without a clear starting point. That's exactly where I was. I still remember the moment very clearly. I was sitting at my desk in Kelowna, seriously reviewing opportunity outside of Canada. Not casually browsing, not dreaming. I was genuinely trying to understand what owning real estate abroad could look like for someone like me. The idea had been on my mind for years. At that point, I already spent over 15 years in real estate across British Columbia and Quebec. I understood market, I understood contract. I had helped hundreds of clients make confident decisions at home. But when it came to buying outside of Canada, everything felt different. Mexico, Dominican Republic. The opportunities looked attractive. The lifestyle was compelling. The numbers were interesting. But I didn't know where to start. Every source said something different. Every country had its own rules. Every so-called expert had a different opinion. Despite all my experience, I felt stuck. Not because I didn't want it badly enough, but because I didn't have a clear system or the right people to trust. That's what most Canadians experience. They try to piece together a path using online content, opinions, and scattered information. And instead of clarity, they get overwhelmed. That's not a buying process. That's what keeps people stuck. At the moment, I realized that buying abroad requires structure, not guesswork. Everything changed. Because here's what most people don't understand. Pre-construction in places like Dominican Republic or Mexico isn't harder than buying in Canada. It's just different. Different laws, different contracts, different payment structure, different time. Intimidating. But with the right framework, trusted legal support, an experienced developer relationship already in place, the process becomes clearer. Not emotional, not chaotic, no bidding wars, no blind decision, no guessing what comes next. Instead, you understand pricing. You understand the payment plan. You understand the legal structure before committing. That clarity is what changed everything for me. Through a close friend, I was introduced to Sunset Real Estate, a company specializing in international real estate with a clear focus on helping Canadians invest abroad properly. More importantly, they already had trusted legal structure, established developer relationship, and proven process built specifically for Canadian buyers. What started as a conversation about collaboration quickly became something else. I didn't just observe the process, I became a buyer. I went through it myself. I asked the hard question. I challenged assumption. I reviewed the contract, the legal frameworks, and the on-the-ground realities. And for the first time, everything made sense. The experience is why the process I use today exists. Not as a shortcut, not as a promise, but has a structured way to remove confusion, reduce uncertainty, and help Canadians move forward with clarity. Today, I combine over 15 years as a licensed Canadian realtor with a proven international system built specifically for Canadians. I help others do what I once struggled to do. Invest confidently outside of Canada, diversify their real estate portfolios, access markets that offer both lifestyle and long-term value, especially in a world where economic uncertainty, interest rate, and policy change are reshaping what makes sense for Canadian investors. Diversification is no longer optional for many people. What I do today exists because I was once the confused buyer. I know what it feels like to hesitate. I know what it feels like to not know who to trust. And I know how powerful it is when the right framework finally removes that uncertainty. My role today is simple: to be the advisor I wish I had when I first looked beyond Canada. Clear process, vetted opportunities, trusted legal support, guidance every step of the way. Because Canadians deserve to invest abroad with clarity, confidence, and peace of mind. But you might be wondering, buying property abroad doesn't feel risky because it's inherently unsafe. It feels risky because most people have no clear starting point. When you first look outside of Canada, everything feels scattered. Different countries, different rules, different opinions, different so-called experts, all saying different things. You read articles, you watch videos, you scroll forums, and instead of clarity, you end up with more questions. That's exactly where I was. Despite over 15 years in Canadian real estate, despite understanding contracts, market, and negotiation, I felt stuck when I started seriously looking abroad. Not because the opportunity weren't there, but because I didn't have a structured way to evaluate them. No consistent legal framework to compare. No clear process built for Canadian. No trusted filters to separate solid opportunities from noises. And that's when I realized something important. The challenge isn't abroad, it's navigating it without a system. Every country is different. Different laws, different contracts, different timelines, different payment structure. And trying to figure that out alone is what creates hesitation. But when you have the right structure in place, trusted legal guidance, established developer relationship, and a process designed specifically for Canadian, everything changes. Not because it's easier than buying in Canada, but because it becomes clearer. No bidding wars, no emotional pressures, no guessing who to trust, just defined steps, verified projects, clear expectation from the beginning. The approach I use today exists because I went through that uncertainty myself. I didn't start as an advisor abroad. I started as a Canadian buyer looking for answers. That experience led me to work with a team that already had the right foundation in place for Canadian investing internationally. A system that prioritized due diligence, legal clarity, and long-term thinking over hype. Today, my role is simple: to guide Canadians through a structured step-by-step process so they don't have to figure this out the hard way. Because once the uncertainty is removed, once the process is clear, and once the right person are involved, buying abroad stops feeling risky and starts feeling intentional. Look, I need to be completely honest with you. I'm not some international real estate guru who grew up buying property all over the world. I'm a Canadian real estate advisor. I spent over 15 years helping people buy and sell real estate in British Columbia and Quebec. That's my foundation. And when my own client first started asking me about buying property abroad, I didn't have the answers. I didn't understand foreign legal system. I didn't know how contract works outside of Canada. I didn't have a clear framework to rely on. And I wasn't willing to guess. What I did know was this: I refused to send people I care about into the same confusing mess I was seeing everywhere online. Random agents, unverified developer, contradictory advice, no clear way to know who or what to trust. So instead of pretending I knew, I stopped and I focused on finding a real system. The search is what led me to Sunset Real Estate. They were already built around helping Canadians buy property abroad properly. They were active in Mexico and the Dominican Republic. And most importantly, they already had what I was missing: trusted developer relationship, legal structure familiar with Canadian buyers, and a step-by-step process designed to reduce uncertainty. At first, the conversation was about collaboration. Could my Canadian background add value? Could I help bridge the gap for Canadian buyers? But before I ever advised a single client abroad, I did something important. I went through the process myself. I became a buyer. I reviewed the contract. I asked the hard question. I challenged assumptions. I looked closely at how ownership works, how payment were structured, and how legal protection was actually applied. And for the first time, buying abroad felt clear, not because the countries changed, but because the chaos was removed. That experience is what gave me the confidence to move forward, not just as an investor, but as an advisor. Once I joined Sunset Real Estate as an international real estate advisor, I finally had the right structure, the legal support, and trusted partner in place to help my own clients. And that's when everything shifted. What started with my own purchase turned into helping Canadians navigate the same process with clarity, not by reinventing anything, but by guiding them through a system that already worked. I wasn't trying to become an international real estate advisor. I was trying to solve a problem that shouldn't exist. The fact that Canadians had no clear, transparent, trusted way to access vetted pre-construction opportunity abroad, the clients I've worked with over the last 14 years didn't choose me because I claim to know everything. They choose me because I don't move forward without clarity, because I rely on proven professional, because I follow a process, and because I don't ask people to take unnecessary risks. This isn't built on my authority alone. It's built on a vetted network of developer, lawyers, partners who already do this successfully, and a step-by-step advisory approach designed specifically to protect Canadians. So think about this for a second. Would it feel different to finally have one clear place where you can see vetted pre-construction opportunity in the Dominican Republic and Mexico, where pricing is transparent, where the process is explained clearly, and where you're guided by a Canadian advisor who has personally gone through it first? Imagine no longer second-guessing every agent, no longer worrying about making a costly mistakes, and instead moving forward with confidence because you're informed, supported, and protected every step of the way. That's exactly why I created Canadian Own Abroad. Now, you might be wondering what it costs to get organized access to vetted pre-construction opportunity in the Dominican Republic and Mexico, along with a direct guidance from a Canadian advisor who understands the process. In most cases, Canadians try to figure this out are left with two options. They either pay for private consultation, piercing together advice market by market, professional by professional, or they try to navigate everything on their own, watching hours of conduct, watching hours of contradictory videos, messaging agent they cannot verify, second guessing every decision because there is no clear reference point. And the real cost of doing it alone is just time. It's uncertainty. Uncertainty about developers, uncertainty about contracts, uncertainty about whether the information you're relying on is even accurate. That's exactly what I wanted to remove. I didn't build Canadian Own Abroad to gatekeep information or change Canadians simply to understand how this works. I built it because I believe Canadians deserve a clear starting point, a place where projects are organized, where the process is explained, and where guidance is available when question comes up. That's why access to Canadian Own Abroad is completely free. There is no cost to join. Inside the community, you can access to curated pre-construction opportunity in Dominican Republic and Mexico. You can review pricing, layout, timelines, and developer information in one place. You get educational resources that explain how the buying process works, how legal structure are handled, and what Canadians should be paying attention before they're moving forward. And when you need clarity, you can book one-on-one calls with me directly through the community to walk through questions, scenarios, or next steps. All of that is available at no cost. The only thing I require to join is your name, email, and phone number so I can send you private access to the community and follow up if you need support. Now, here's the important part. Because the community includes the ability to book calls with me directly, there's a natural limit to how many people I can personally support at one time. I want to make sure that anyone who joins can actually get guidance when they need it, not wait weeks or feel rushed. So enrollment is managed based on availability. When capacity is reached, access will be paused until space opens up again. And I don't want you to end up back where you started, scrolling through listing with no context, watching videos that contradict each other, wondering who you can actually trust. So if you're serious about exploring pre-construction opportunity abroad the right way, if you want clarity instead of confusion, structure instead of guesswork, and guidance from a Canadian advisor who has personally been through the process, then click on the button below and join Canadian Own Abroad. Enter your name, email, and phone number, and I'll send you your private access link. This is your opportunity to finally understand your option and ask the right question and move forward when the timing is right. Click below to get access now. And there's one more important thing you need to know. When you join Canadian Own Abroad, you're not just getting organized access to information. You're also getting access to opportunities that are not available publicly. Because of my role within Sunset Real Estate and the relationship we've built on the ground, members of this community receive 3 very real advantages. Bonus 1, access to exclusive projects available only through Sunset Real Estate. Some developers choose to work exclusively with Sunset Real Estate when it comes to Canadian buyers. That means certain pre-construction projects are only available to Canadians through our network. These opportunities are not listed publicly, they are not available through random agents, and they are not something you'll find by searching online. Inside the community, when these projects are available, you'll be able to review them with full context, transparency, pricing, and proper guidance. The bonus number 2 is fly and buy promotion with selected developers. Some developer we work with offers what commonly called a fly and buy promotion. This means that if you travel to see the project in person and decide to move forward with a purchase, the developer may offer a financial incentive or a discount on your purchase. These offers are not guaranteed, they are not available on every project, and they are not extended through approved partner. When these promotions are available, community members are informed first and guided through how they work. Bonus number 3, pre-launch and early access to unit selection. In certain cases, developers provide pre-launch or early access to projects before they are released to the broader market. This gives buyers earlier visibility and in some cases, better unit selection based on layout, view, and positioning within the project. Early access does not mean pressure to buy. It simply means more choice and more time to evaluate options. All three of these advantages exist because of established relationship, no marketing promises. Now let me address the question that probably is in your mind. What if you join and realize this isn't what you need? That's the easiest part. Canadian Own Abroad is completely free. There's no membership fee, no commitment, no obligation to buy anything. You can join, explore the opportunities, review how the process works, ask questions, book a call if you want, and if you decide it's not the right time or the right fit, you simply don't move forward. There's nothing to cancel or nothing to lose. The only real risk is staying stuck in the same cycle. Endless research, conflicting opinions, unverified information, and never feeling confident enough to take the next step. I built this community because I've seen too many Canadians pause indefinitely, not because of opportunity don't exist, but because clarity is missing. And clarity changed everything. So here's the real question. Do you want to keep trying to piece this together on your own? Or you would rather have organized access to vetted opportunities, experienced developer, trusted legal professional, and a Canadian advisor guiding you step by step through a process that actually makes sense? If you're ready for clarity, Canadian Own Abroad is where it starts. A free private community built specifically for Canadians who wants to explore pre-construction real estate abroad with clarity instead of confusion. This isn't another Facebook group filled with random opinions and agent pushing project with no context. And it's not a generic listing website where you're left to figure everything out on your own. Canadian Own Abroad is an organized environment designed to help you understand how buying abroad actually works, evaluate opportunities properly, and move forward with confidence when the timing is right. Inside the community, you'll find a curated selection of pre-construction projects that meets clear criteria for Canadian buyers, including transparent pricing, defined timelines, and established development team. You're able to review projects side by side, understand what's being offered, and ask informed questions instead of guessing. Clear financial context built for Canadian. You're not looking at numbers without explanation. Projects inside the community are presented with realistic financial context, including rental scenarios, ownership costs, an example of how Canadians commonly structure purchases using available equity. The goal isn't to promise returns. It's to help you understand what a deal actually looks like before you ever consider moving forward. Legal structure explained in a plain language. One of the biggest sources of fear for Canadian buying abroad is the legal process. Inside Canadian Own Abroad, you get clear explanation of how ownership works, how contracts and structure, what role lawyers play, and what protection are in place for foreign buyers. No legal jargon, no assumption, no expectation that you already know how this works. Just clarity. Established developers and professional partners. Opportunities shared inside the community are connected to developers with completed projects, visible track records, and professional team already working with Canadian buyers. This doesn't eliminate due diligence. It gives you a safer starting point. Instead of wondering who is credible, you're introduced to projects that are already supported by experienced legal and operational partner. Direct access to me when you need clarity. Built into the community is the ability to book one-on-one calls with me. No pressure, no obligation, no rush decision. These conversations about walking through project, answering questions, and helping you understand whether something fits your goal or not. It's guidance, not a sales pitch. Now imagine what that feels like. Waking up knowing you actually understand your options, looking at project with confidence instead of doubt, knowing what question to ask and what to look for. Imagine reaching a point where when you decide to move forward, you're doing it with clarity, support, and peace of mind. Not because you took a risk, but because you followed a structured process designed specifically for Canadian. That's what exists inside Canadian Own Abroad. And if it's there to give you the clarity I wish I had when I first started looking beyond Canada, Here's what you need to understand right now. Right now, you have three paths in front of you. Option one, keep doing what you've been doing. Stay in research mode, keep watching video, keep scrolling listing, keep messaging agent you can't verify. Maybe eventually everything's lined up. Maybe you find the right project, maybe you don't. But if we're being honest on how that's been working so far, you're still unsure, still second guessing, still worried about making the wrong move. And while you stay stuck, others who have the clarity move forward. Option number two, try to figure it out on your own. You could keep researching legal structure, try to vet developer yourself, place together advice from different sources. You might get there, but the cost is real. Time, stress, mental energy, and the constant doubt of wondering if you missed something important. That's not competence. That's pressure. Option three, join Canadian Own Abroad and follow a structured path. Get organized access to vetted pre-construction opportunity in Dominican Republic and Mexico. See project clearly, understand the process, learn what matters and what doesn't. Ask questions, book a call, get guidance when you need. No pressure, no hype, no guessing. Just a clear step-by-step way to move from curiosity to confidence. One path keeps you spinning, one path drains your time and energy, one path gives you clarity and direction. The choice is simple. The truth is you already know what you want. You want diversification, you want lifestyle, you want smarter option outside Canada. You've been thinking about it for a while. What's been holding you back isn't the lack of interest, it's a fear of making the wrong decision. And that fear exists because you've been trying to navigate something complex without a clear system. Now you have one. Click the button below and join Canadian Own Abroad. You'll get access to vetted opportunities, clear explanation of how the process works, and the ability to book a call with me when you need clarity. There's no cost, no obligation, and there's no pressure to buy anything, just information, structure, and guidance. Because after more than a decade in real estate, here's what I know for sure. The Canadians who move forwards aren't the ones with the most money. They're the ones who stop trying to figure everything out alone. They found clarity, they trusted the process, and they took the next step when it made sense. This is that step. Click below and I'll see you inside the community. This opportunity isn't unlimited. Pre-construction project move through stages over time. Inventory change, price evolves, incentive comes and go. Not every project is at an early stage. Not every opportunity look the same. But what is consistent is this. The best option rarely lasts. Certain layouts sell first, certain view disappear, certain price point get absorbed quickly once a project gains traction. And when you wait, you don't just risk paying more, you limit your choices. But there's a bigger cost most people don't think about. Every month spent stuck in confusion is a month of lost momentum, a month where you could be learning how the process works, a month where you could be positioned in the right project, a month where clarity could replace doubt. I've seen Canadians wait just to be sure, only to come back later with fewer options, higher price, or missed opportunity. That's not patience. That's hesitation caused by lack of clarity. You don't need to rush, but you don't need to stay stuck either. You need information you can trust and a process that makes sense. That's exactly what this community gives you.